To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land, your land, your land, your land.
LUCID.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Explore the Mouse Podcast, a podcast by Disney lovers for Disney lovers. Come join us as we dive into the wonderful world of Disney.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Here is your host, Eric Rodakis.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Explore the Mouse Podcast. We are your hosts, Eric Lagaikas and Gazy.
Hey, guys.
I figured I couldn't get a hold of Donald, so I would just rechange the way I introduce us.
I like it.
I like it too. Anyways, welcome back to the podcast, and we're really excited about this podcast because this is basically Walt Disney. He's the reason that this episode is about Walt Disney, and he's the main reason for everything. Like, we wouldn't even have a podcast to talk about if this guy's imagination wasn't so great.
Yeah, there would be no Disney.
Which we're really excited about. And there's just a lot of cool things happening with Disney. And if you guys are just checking into some things, Disney and the Fox merger became official between the last two podcasts. Extremely exciting.
Big deal. This is a big deal.
It is a huge deal.
Interested to see what they do with everything.
Well, the cool thing about it is I think like this is going to flip like Hollywood, like movies and studios completely on its head. Because, you know, like 21st Century Fox and even 20th Century Fox, they were one of the big, like, I think 9 big studios, I think it is, that do like movies. Yeah. And Disney, like, network. And like Disney gobbled them up. Yeah. And they gobbled up so much too. Gobbled them up. But they did, but they gobbled up so much too, especially like The Simpsons. That is a big one that a lot of people are kind of talking about. That's one of the ones
I'm most interested to see what they do with.
Well, according to Bob Iger, is that they weren't touching it.
Which I think is a smart move.
Yeah.
Because I think it would dirty down Disney, if that makes sense.
I just think it's funny because in the past you have seen like Simpsons take a ton of shots at Disney in the past episodes, or in like different like seasons, and I just think it's hilarious now that they're now owned by Disney. But it's just a really cool thing, and there's a lot. You know, we were kind of having a conversation about it the other day when the merger happened. We were even talking about like what happens now to like Universal Studios. Yeah. What happens to that contract that they had with Fox? You know, no one really knows what the contract was, but Universal Studios, like both of the parks, Allen's Adventure and Universal Studios Orlando, they are literally packed with now stuff that Disney owns, including their own Simpsons land. And then what's the other? The other like Fantastic Four and
I mean it's a big makeup. It's a big portion of it. So I don't know what they're gonna do.
It's gonna be interesting.
Disney will just say keep it for right now, and we'll have the rights, and you pay us a portion. I don't know.
Well, they're gonna have to pay Disney. I don't know how that works. Well, they're gonna
but I don't know like if they'll continue with that or if they'll be like, no, we're pulling everything out. I mean that's a lot of money.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but and then,
I know that they won't bring it over to Disney. It would just
no. Yeah, I don't see Simpsons Land coming to Disney anytime soon.
No. It would dirty up Disney too much. They wouldn't do that.
Yeah. I think they're going to keep it. Yeah, I think they're just going to keep it what it is, and probably like you said, they're just going to Universal's going to continue to have to pay Disney, if they want to keep all that stuff. But that's going on, and then at the end of this week is the release of Dumbo.
Yeah.
We finally get to see the movie Dumbo.
I'm crying at the thought.
It looks so good. Everything about it looks really good.
Yeah.
And then last thing I wanted to ask you before we get into talking about Walt's life is Disney just released the not final, but I think it's like the third or fourth Aladdin trailer.
Yes.
Where now like the genie has been officially revealed.
Yeah.
And all these different things have been revealed. What are your thoughts on Aladdin now?
Oh, I'm still really excited. I've been excited from day one. I'm excited that they're doing this instead of other movies. I really think that they did a really great character choice with Aladdin and with Jasmine. Don't really get too much out of her from the trailers, but I think that's who Jasmine is as a character. You know,
there's some mystique to it.
Yeah, she's demure in the beginning, and then she kind of comes into her own. So I think we'll get that a lot from the movies, but I think from the trailers, we're just seeing that shy side of her.
Yeah.
I love the Aladdin. I think he's great. I'm still just really lost with the whole genie thing. I'm really trying to give Will Smith the benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to give that to him. I just am not. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I am with it. The last trailer kind of left me on the same page that I was with the first.
I'm willing to give Will Smith a little bit more of a chance now that we saw this new trailer.
Yeah.
I think, because I think that he is going to own that character and
I know he'll own it. I know he's gonna give 110% into it. That's who Will Smith is as an actor, and I think that that's where he is comparable to Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Obviously, we couldn't have Robin Williams again. I see what Disney was doing again with having a name star, a comedian star, just like they did with Robin Williams in the first. I just don't know where he's going to take it. I know he will take it 110%. I'm just not sure what he's going to do with it. If he'll honor Robin Williams' character, or if he'll kind of do his own thing. I don't know. I'm curious. So.
Me too.
But I am very excited. That last trailer was really exciting.
Yeah. The cool thing too is that they just added onto the IMDb page for Aladdin a voice of Iago. Ooh. So a lot of people were wondering if there's even going to be voices, and Iago actually has a voice now, and it's going to be played by Alan Tudyk. A lot of people, you'll know who he is if you saw his picture, because he's been in a ton of movies. But even more importantly, the cool thing about him is that he actually has voiced a ton of stuff for Disney.
Yeah,
including over in Wreck-It Ralph, he played the king in Candy in the Candy Game. I forgot his name, yeah. King, whatever it was. But yeah, he's played a bunch of voice stuff. So it is going to be really cool to hear his version of Iago, because Gilbert Gottfried was,
I will say that's like a very fitting role for him compared to the roles that he's played in the past. He's always that like kind of quick-witted evil character.
Yeah.
But not evil enough.
Yeah,
I don't even
but he's also a really great voice actor. But
evil, yeah.
I'm a little more excited about it now. But without further ado, let's move into the actual meat of the podcast of what this is supposed to be about, and we're talking about Walter Elias Disney.
Yeah.
There is there's so much to say about Walt Disney that we were kind of talking about how do we pack this into a 45 to a 60-minute episode, and we were just trying to figure out, like, how do we actually do that? Because there is so much to talk about with Walt Disney.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to kind of skip, like, the early stages of his life,
Yeah.
But I do have to point out that Walt Disney did live in Chicago. And I've seen, because it's cool. I've seen his house several times that he was born in.
Wow.
And they actually still, to this day, have it as a little museum.
Very cool.
Which is cool. So if you're ever in Chicago, you could actually go see his house. Similar to his time down in Missouri, Marceline, yeah. Missouri. You can go down there, and there's still like a bunch of different stuff down there. But Walt Disney's life, for me, I think, we wouldn't be here talking about Disney unless it wasn't for his genius. What stands out to you as like some of like your like what Walt Disney kind of means to not even just like us, but like what does Walt Disney mean to like just even the world of like animation and movies? And
that's a very large wow, that we are just really hitting it hard from the beginning. That's a very big loaded question.
What is a big loaded question? But I had to ask.
Okay, so real quick, just FYI, we're not talking about like his kids and Lillian and all of that stuff. That's not what this episode is. It's kind of just some little unknown facts about Walt, and I don't know,
talk about Laugh-O-Gram Studios and all these cool different things. Yeah.
Wow. No, I don't even know how you could put it into words. He is he was an Imagineer. I mean, truly, like, to think up these ideas and have the passion and the strength to say, I'm going to do it no matter how many times I fail, and I'm going to do it no matter how many times people tell me that this is dumb or that I can't afford to do this. That he continued on and pressed on and really shared with the world what he wanted to share, and then found a way to share his message and actually put a voice behind the things that he really, like, I don't know,
believed in.
Yeah, believed in, and I don't know. He found a way to share a lot of things in a positive and a silly and like a eye-catching way, and then found a way to make billions of dollars off of that, which is great. But I think besides the money, there's just something to him. If I could spend a day with Walt Disney, I don't even know what I would ask him. I think I would just stare at him. I really think I would. I don't think I would say anything. I would just stand there and just stare at him and just watch him work and like react to things. I just want to know, like, what does the inside of his brain look like?
And see, for me, we've had a lot of conversations about myself, and surprisingly, it wasn't even Walt Disney. When we went to go see The Greatest Showman, there was the song in there, and that song plus like looking at Walt Disney's life, for me, like I'm a dreamer. I dream up things and I want them to become reality. And for me, looking at Walt Disney and seeing the things that he did, being turned away from so many different people, being turned away from like big studios and all that stuff, like he never lost hope for what he wanted. He
pressed forward, which I think is, speaks volumes.
Oh yeah, even when he had like his animators at Laugh-O-Grams, like he had some of the people leave, because he there's a couple movies that are out there that mimic his life. And he had a lot of animators that left, because they didn't really see his vision, or they didn't think it was going to go anywhere, and he just literally kept pressing forward.
Didn't think they'd get a paycheck, or they didn't get a paycheck. That's a hard thing. That's a hard reality.
Which, fun fact, actually, I didn't even know this until there was a couple movies and then also some research, but I didn't realize that a lot, like the people that Walt hired as his animators for Laugh-O-Gram, literally these people have comprised the biggest collection of the most popular like animations of our lives. Oh yeah, not just Disney stuff. Because some of the animators that actually left and didn't follow Disney along, they wanted to go start their own studio. They were the people that created Bugs Bunny. They were created Looney Tunes. I forgot the other one. There was another huge one that I'm like drawing a huge blank on. But one of the animators went to go do that, and so Walt hired like amazing people. Yeah, like he didn't hire just like these hacks off the street. He hired some of the best animators that literally created the best cartoons in the history. Of cartoons. And to me, I'm still biased, but it's the greatest generation of cartoons is Looney Tunes and the old Disney. Nothing today can compare to that. Plus now everything's computer animated, but it's just. Sorry, Dora the Explorer. But oh yeah, well, I was trying to think of the Peppa Pig. I guess that's the next generation. I look at like Walt did. I looked at Laugh-O-Gram, and I looked at like how he just persevered and just never quit. And Walt had a hard life too, because Walt talked about his father several times throughout the history of his career, and he talked about how his father was like a really, really good guy. But he was a very hard father, very harsh on the kids. So to see like him persevere through all of that and create one of the biggest, I don't even know what you want to call it, like empires. That's probably the best word. I mean, it is an empire. He created like the biggest empire, in the world. You have to kind of look at that and want to mimic anything you do after that. And I think that's what I do. Like my life, like everything, like this podcast, every other little project I have, like I mimic it with like everything that I have. Oh yeah. And I think it's because of Walt. Eric has an idea, and the next day we have business cards, t-shirts, hats, Instagrams, and a podcast studio. Well, I told you. I know. And sometimes
and
it
a
is
YouTube channel.
and sometimes it is a little too much, but that's how I think. Like that's how I move forward. Like I get an idea and I cannot get it out of my head.
I can't even imagine Walt in today's world, like with the technology that we have at our fingertips, which I don't know that we would have that without what he, brought to the table.
Oh, seriously.
But I just can't even imagine. Like, I can't. And I just have to say, God bless Lillian, because his wife, because she must have been like, oh, that's a wonderful, another idea. Okay, we're going with it. All right.
But think about it. Like think about it though. Like there are probably people out there that had the vision, like Walt. Had the vision. Like all these other like amazing creative people. And maybe didn't have that. So the fact that like he did have those people that were close to him, like Roy, his wife.
Yes,
like
Roy
he had
is his brother, not his wife.
Yes.
Oh,
No, I said Roy and his wife. Yeah, we know Roy's not the wife. But Roy was like his biggest supporter.
Yeah.
That's why Roy quit everything he did to help, like his career to help Walt get his, and it paid off in the end for Roy too.
Right.
Right. But yeah, it's just a really cool thing that he had all that, but. And then even just into like the inspiration to creation of Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Because you think about, this podcast is called Explore the Mouse. Mm-hmm. And everything that we see today Disney wise is because of that one mouse. Yeah. And this year we're celebrating Mickey, which is 90 years.
His 90th birthday, yeah.
And it's really cool. And this is kind of why we wanted to do this podcast right now, because it just kind of fit into this year celebration of Mickey. And just the vision of Walt, because Mickey is Walt's vision.
Right.
But I don't know. I think.
Okay.
I was about to ask you a question, but then I was like, I don't want to ask a big old question again to you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so I'm curious about some of the movies, because a lot of people don't know about some of Walt's early movies.
Right. Well, I think, real quick, you should go back and talk about Laugh-O-Grams, because I think some people might not know what that is. And if you don't, I really recommend a couple of movies that are on Netflix. And there's a couple of movies about Walt's life that I would definitely recommend. But if you're not familiar with Laugh-O-Grams, Eric, why don't you tell us kind of just a little snippet on what Laugh-O-Grams is and what it was to Walt's history.
So Laugh-O-Gram was actually a very short-lived studio. Mm-hmm. Walt started in 1921, and it was kind of his way. He wanted to basically sell his animations to, all these different people, including studios. So he got these, all these animators together. And one of his biggest animators was iWorks. I never can say his name right, because it is kind of a weird name.
Sure.
But and it's like he brought all these animators together to create this place, and unfortunately it only lasted 2 years. But the name Laugh-O-Gram, even though it only lasted 2 years, literally was Walt's future. Laugh-O-Gram really led into everything, because during that time, that's when he found Mickey Mouse, and got inspired for Mickey Mouse.
Right.
And by the way, you mentioned a couple movies. If you want to see these movies, there are 2 movies out there, and one of them is called As Dreamers Do, and then my favorite is Walt Before Mickey.
Yeah, that's the best one.
That was the one on Netflix, right? I think it was Netflix.
It's on Netflix anymore. I think it was.
Maybe it was, but it was on. I believe it was Netflix for a while. But if you could probably find it on Amazon or something like that. But it's called Walt Before Mickey, and the guy that played Walt is, I never can forget his. I always forget his name, but it's the guy who played, not the American Pie guy.
We're super informative. Watch this movie. We don't know where you can find it, and we don't know the guy's name, but he's really good. I'm going to look it up, because
it's bothering
really
me because I can picture his face. He was also in the Pitcher movie where he was a Cubs pitcher after he broke his arm.
That's not helpful.
Anyways, but Walt Before Mickey is a great movie if you want to kind of see how he struggled to get his animations out there.
Thomas Ian Nicholas. He's in Rookie of the Year and American Pie.
That's what it was, yeah. Rookie of the Year. But he plays Walt Disney in this movie, and he does a phenomenal job. And I remember you, watching me one time when I'm like, I want to watch this movie. You're like, oh, geez. This is a Netflix. This is going to be bad. I liked it.
I definitely was not excited to watch it, but I do think it surprised me, and I think it's a really good one. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. But
anyway, so
that's kind of, you're going to go on and on about Laugh-O-Grams. So
well, you told me to tell them about Laugh-O-Grams, so I'm going to tell them about Laugh-O-Grams.
We need a whole episode on Laugh-O-Grams. So essentially, it was a studio that he put together. He hired all these animators, and it's also really cool to see the people that he was kind of attracted to working with. A lot of really brilliant minds, just like himself, which is really cool. And then you mentioned that he kind of came up with the inspiration for Mickey Mouse, which
that's what
supposedly it was that there was a fairly well-tamed mouse that actually was in the physical studio that they had. And that's kind of where he came up with the inspiration for Mickey. He originally was named Mortimer.
Mortimer. I was actually just about to ask you trivia. Did you know Mickey's original name?
He was originally named Mortimer.
Mortimer Mouse.
His wife Lillian said that it was too pompous of a name and that Mickey was better for marketing. And thank God she said that. Can you imagine if we all were wearing like
Mortimer Mouse shirts?
Mortimer.
The Mortimer Mouse Club.
Mouse. It's just like too much. Thank God for Lillian.
Seriously, I don't even think. Can you brand Mortimer? That would just be a really like.
Obviously, you could have, and it would. It just would have been a whole different thing.
I definitely don't think it'd be like as cool as Mickey. So
he wouldn't have been, and Lillian was right. He wouldn't have been as marketable because Mickey is friendly and like it's just Mickey. Like, how can you not be excited about Mickey? I don't know. Mortimer sounds like my old Uncle Mortimer. Actually, Mortimer reminds me of the character that he kind of turned into.
Do you have an Uncle Mortimer?
No, but wouldn't you?
That's true. Yes,
sure, everyone's got like an uncle like Uncle Mortimer.
That's true. Like, Uncle Mortimer does sound like
he's just like an old grumpy guy.
You'd be like the one that comes and gives you like a nickel and like a butterscotch candy,
and he smells like lint.
I didn't know lint has a smell.
Dryer lint.
Oh jeez, this is like a rabbit hole of a conversation, but that's cool. Yeah. Before we move on, I do want to talk about Laugh-O-Gram because there actually is. Well, no, because don't roll your eyes at me. I did want to talk about
45-minute episode of Eric talking about Laugh-O-Grams.
No, I did want to talk about like some of the actual original movies, because some of the original movies are actually pretty interesting. Because there's actually only two that are actual like Disney movies, and that's Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland. But did you know that there was a movie that Walt Disney and Laugh-O-Gram did called Puss in Boots?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. So I found that funny because of DreamWorks.
Yeah.
Puss in Boots from Shrek. I've never actually seen it, but I do. I'm interested in seeing what that was actually about. To kind of see if like the inspiration for actual Puss in Boots, was there. But I'll have to go back and see if I can find that. But that was Laugh-O-Gram Studios, and like I said, that's just kind of jumped him into where he was today.
But keeping in theme with where we were saying, sometimes things didn't work out, and sometimes people told him it was stupid or that he couldn't do it. Laugh-O-Grams actually went bankrupt. He couldn't pay his artists, and that's why a lot of them moved on to other things. And
couldn't pay rent, couldn't pay artists, he couldn't pay anything.
So they went bankrupt, and he could have right then and there said, all right, and then could have gone to go work at a bank or gone to deliver newspapers or whatever. He could have just given up, but he chose not to. And I think that, again, speaks volumes to who Walt Disney was as a person. He persevered. And again, he had his brother right by his side to say, let's do it. Let's move on and let's figure out, how we can get this out into the world. Yeah.
Roy never left him. And then another person was that Oob. Oob. Good old Oob. Good.
Do we know that's how it's pronounced?
No.
Like, is it like
his name is? Or? No, his name is UB.
Oh, so it's just.
I mean, what else? How would you pronounce UB? Ub? Ub?
Sup-ub.
What up, Ub? But he was the one that actually designed Mickey. It wasn't Walt who designed Mickey. Right. The Oob. I think it's Oob.
I think it was a collective thing, but I think Oob or Ube or however we're pronouncing it, he like finalized the drawing.
Yeah.
Like it was a collective, like Walt had a say and said that this is how I see him. This is how
Yeah.
I want his face to kind of come off. This is the presence I want him to give. And then Oob put it together.
Well, the cool thing is a Disney employee actually said something a while back, and it was just like a statement, and it actually has become kind of like the I don't know, you want to call it the motto, I guess, of like creating Mickey Mouse. And he said that Oob designed Mickey's physical appearance, but Walt's the one that gave him his soul. And I think that is totally true because, if it wasn't for Walt's imagination, Mickey would be nothing. Look at Steamboat Willie.
Right.
Steamboat Willie changed like the landscape of animation.
Right.
And even today, I mean, we were just at Target a couple of weeks ago or whatever it was, and we saw the Steamboat Willie animation doll on the shelves, and what do? We had to buy it.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. We own it now.
It's amazing. But like we had to, because Steamboat Willie is such a classic character. Then, you've heard us talk about other podcasts that they're bringing a lot of Steamboat Willie back right now for the 90th. And it is just an iconic thing. And it is just really, really cool. But let's kind of go on a little bit and let's talk about not even the animation anymore. Let's talk about Walt's just creation of Disney. Because I think the theme park is really where Walt made the world know who he is. Right. Because he made some great movies with, Snow White, Seven Dwarfs and all that stuff. But I'm trying to think of all the other movies that came out right in the beginning. But the theme park is really what made him, stand out. And that was like in the early 1950s is when Walt really kind of decided to do this. Which actually back then, $2.2 million is what the budget was to build Disneyland. That is actually a crazy number for that time.
I was just about to say that's a lot of money.
Oh, it's a ton of money. I mean, I don't know what it is like crossed over to like today's, but I mean, $2.2 million is actually a pretty decent thing. Did you know what Disney was based off of? Like why Walt created it?
Oh yeah, you think I didn't know this, did you?
No, I do. I think you know it.
He was sitting on a park bench at Griffith Park in Los Angeles watching his daughters on a carousel, and he decided to make an amusement park.
Do you know what?
Boom! Mic drop.
Do you know what the place was that he saw that really inspired him? It was a place in Denmark.
No.
Tivoli Gardens.
Oh, okay. Well,
so there's a place in Copenhagen, Denmark that he actually visited called Tivoli Gardens, and that is actually like where he got a lot of the inspiration for actually putting the park together. Oh. And the cool thing is, like I told you in other episodes with visiting Disneyland, I've only been there once, like I said, but you've been there a ton. But from the moment I stepped in Disneyland, I felt that history.
Oh, yeah.
I felt the nostalgia of Walt Disney, and I think our first stop when we went down to Main Street was the firehouse because I had to get a picture taken in front of that firehouse where he lived.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar, Walt had an apartment right above the firehouse, and there's still to this day a candle that they light because that was his signal that he was working and that he was there. Yeah. So he stayed in the apartment and would walk the park in the morning every morning before the park opened, and that was actually one of my favorite things about Disneyland, and I actually got to share that with Eric when we were there last time. We were walking through Adventureland. No, actually New Orleans Square. We were in New Orleans.
Yeah, we were going past Pirates.
And I said to Eric, it was eerily quiet for some reason on the day after Christmas. It was like early evening, the sun had gone down, and I said to Eric, isn't this just so crazy to think about that these, this was like the path that Walt would walk in the mornings, and we were both like, our eyes were welling up, just feeling his energy and his presence. You definitely get the sense of feeling him there that you don't get in Florida.
I will agree to that. Yes.
Yeah.
You do the sense of nostalgia, like of Walt's like imagination and creativity is not at Disney World as much as it is Disneyland.
Yeah.
And I think it is because of that, because you do walk these, whatever you want to say, walk these streets and walk these like little hallways and corridors that he would, go down or go walk in, and that Walt was there.
Yeah. It's almost like you just can feel his pride.
Like Walt visited Orlando, but he was not there for the building.
He didn't get to see the completion.
Yeah, like he didn't get to see it. So like when you walk down Main Street at Disneyland,
Yeah.
At one point in history, Walt walked down that same path.
Yeah, it's just so I don't know.
And it's really neat.
There's something about that. I can just feel like his pride. And I know he is like so proud of what Disney World is and what Disney today as a corporation, as an empire is. But there's something about Disneyland. I feel like you can just feel it, and I just love it. And I don't know.
And we're going to talk about that in a little bit towards the end. We're going to talk about like what we feel Walt thinks about the modern Disney.
Yeah.
But I think another movie too, and we've talked about this on a couple episodes as well, is that kind of really encapsulates Walt's life. And I think that in the best way ever was in, not Mary Poppins, Saving Mr. Banks with Tom Hanks.
Yes.
And I think Tom Hanks, one, he's an amazing actor in general.
Yes. Yeah.
But the fact is, he literally brought Walt Disney to life. Mm-hmm. That movie brought Walt Disney to life. And, if anyone ever says, I wonder what it would be like to walk down Main Street with Walt Disney, that movie right there will give you that, like, feel of, like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's Walt.
Yeah.
Like, that is Walt Disney. And he brought so much, like, amazing energy to everything that he did, and that movie also encapsulates it too. And I think I would love to work for someone like him. I just think it would have been awesome. And everyone you talk or everyone you listen to in like episodes or interviews and stuff like that, they talk about Walt, and they talk about that he had a temper and this and that, but they talked about how amazing he was to work for because he was just so animated. Mm-hmm. Everything that he did was just to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. And, like, again, it just speaks volumes to why Disney is so successful today. But yeah, go check out that movie. If you've never seen it, go check out Saving Mr. Banks because it is. Yeah,
that's another really good one.
It is. We watched it the other day because, what was that? I think it was on Netflix.
Yeah, that one is.
That
on
one
Netflix
currently
for
is
sure.
on Netflix because we watched it only like a week and a half ago. But that one there truly encapsulates it. So please go watch it. But kind of moving on to just everything else. I mean, you look at Disney World itself, and everything at Disney World is Walt's dream. Mm-hmm. Epcot, you know. You look at Epcot, and actually, I had a conversation the other day on one of these Facebook pages. Someone wrote something, and I wrote something back. And the guy was
usually how a conversation works.
I know. Well, the guy was the guy that I was conversing with was a lot older than me, and he definitely, like, the way he was writing back to me definitely was making me seem like I was just an idiot. I didn't know what I was talking about. And we were talking about what Epcot's vision was and this and that, and the guy tried calling me out about how that, like, the year that I was talking about wasn't even when Epcot was open or something, but I was talking about the vision of Epcot. Mm-hmm. And you look at Walt's vision, which you can see all over the place. You can see that at Epcot, and you can even see it on the People Mover at Disney World when you go through that tunnel, and the whole prototype city is like there that you can look at. Which by the way, I hope that one day we get stopped like right there.
Oh, just to get to take it all in.
Because there's so much to see on that little prototype. And I'm not sure if it's original.
It's like a model.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the original model or if they rebuilt it. But Walt did have a model that looked like that. Yeah. That he used as his experimental. So I hope one day we can get stopped on People Mover right there so we can kind of take it all in. But
another cool thing, like to feel like you know what his vision is, or to like feel like you're a part of it, is Carousel of Progress. That was truly a turning point in technology and animatronic robots. Yeah. Animatronics?
Animatronics, yeah.
Animatronics. I mean, that was a huge turning point. If you like have ever gone to a freaking Chuck E. Cheese and seen the like animatronic mouse or rat, whatever Chucky is, that's all thanks to Walt Disney. Yeah. I mean, he is the one who created and came up with that whole process. And so that's why we love Carousel of Progress. Because it's just so cool to think about how he had his hand in this. This is literally started as a thought in his head, and he put a pen to paper and found the right people. So I'm not saying it's all just him. I'm not saying, oh, he's brilliant, he just did this himself. He found the right people to help him figure out how to do this, and then showcase it at the World's Fair that year. And now it's a part of Disney World.
Yeah.
And so it's like one of our favorite, and I think it's one of the most underrated rides in the parks.
It is totally underrated because you look at the animatronics that was used in that, and for its time, and Walt did create animatronics before this, the Tiki Birds.
Right, but this is like...
No, I know. But I was saying, like, the Tiki Bird's like his original animatronic, which was a huge feat in, like, that whole new realm. Yeah. But then creating Lincoln, creating Carousel of Progress, It's a Small World, but...
we have to give credit to it.
I have to give credit, but I have to mumble that credit. Because all those were done at the same time. But Carousel of Progress, even to this day, just has that nostalgic feel. And the funny thing is that so many people are like, you know what, I've never been on that before.
Ugh, ride it. If you haven't, I say ride it. It's kind of like, watch it.
The best thing about it is that if it's a rainy day, it's a good way to get out of the rain for a little bit. Or if it's a hot day, it's a great way to get off your feet and in air conditioning. Mm-hmm. So even if you don't like the show, it's a good thing.
It's
but
20 minutes.
I'm telling you right now, you will like the show.
Yeah.
There is just something about Carousel of Progress that brings you to, like, when Walt was creating it. And there's
I totally get that feeling.
There's videos and pictures of, like, Walt like on stage during like the creation of it. And when you're watching it, you once again you get that nostalgic feel that, you know, because they don't have that at Disneyland. So it's that nostalgic feel that you're like, whoa, like Walt stood on that stage right there, like, you know, adjusting.
I don't know, watching it, I just think, like, yeah, he had his hand in this. I think, oh, did he say, no, I want Sarah's hair to have a curl here, or I want her to be wearing pink bloomers instead of white bloomers? Did he say, no, that's dumb that oven opens at that point. I want it to open at this point, or I want, you know, the dog's tail to wag this way. Like, I know he had his hand in that, which I think is so cool. And to me, that's one of my favorite things about Disney. I love being in the bubble. I love feeling all the magic, and I love all of the food and everything like that. But there's something about the nostalgia and knowing that this one man made all of this, and like he just had a thought and made it all come to be. That's like one of my favorite things. I don't know. I could get emotional about this. I just love it. Because I'm very thankful to who he was as a person and what he has done. And I know it sounds so silly because it's like, no, he didn't cure cancer, and no, he didn't, you know, save the world, and he didn't stop the war. But
no, but he created a place that a ton of people could escape all those different things and kind of come back to like a childhood.
Yeah.
And it's really what it is. And I'll be honest, it's actually kind of a shame sometimes, and we've talked about this in other podcasts, that it's a shame that people go to the parks and they are just so pushy and rude and mean and stuff. Because
I think I said that on one of the first episodes that was in.
Yeah,
we talked about that.
Fantasyland, I think it was.
Room.
Yeah, it was the Tiki Room.
She was so mean.
But it was just like, you look at that and that's not like where Walt is. And I think that's the cool thing about like where we come from on our love for Disney, is that when we go to the parks, we don't look at it as just like this really cool place, you know. We look at it as like a nostalgic feel. You know, we go back and like
I always get emotional.
We take in every aspect. Yeah. You know, whether it's on Jungle Cruise or whether it's on Carousel of Progress or even just the People Mover, you know, we're taking these things in and we're riding these rides going, man, like this was Walt's vision of transportation in the future.
And we do that with the newer rides too. We're constantly asking each other, what do you think Walt would think about this? What do you think Walt would say about this? And do you think Walt would like the citrus swirl recipe now with the new flavor? You know, like we're constantly asking each other. I don't know why. I just appreciate him as a man.
Well, because I think what he has done for just not only animation, but done for like just people's, like I said, going back to their childhood. Yeah. You know, Disney is the one place that you could escape. I tell people all the time that Disney is like my second home. Yeah. When people ask what your happy place is, Disney's my happy place. Well, and I tell people that all the time.
And then you get those people that say like, well, you know, they're always taking advantage. They're always upping the money. And I don't understand how, if Walt was here, he would be so upset, you know, because they're taking advantage of people. And okay, so here, let's just get down to it real quick. No, I don't think we should pay $18.95 for a balloon. Like, then don't buy the balloon, okay?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Walt Disney cast members are taken care of. They are respected. They work their
Butts off.
But they really do. Like, truly, they work so much. But they are rewarded. And they are happy, for the most part, from what I've heard. Yeah, they're respected. They're treated like wonderful human beings as they are. You work in a happy place. You should be happy. You make other people happy. It's just kind of like full circle. So
Yeah.
I don't mind paying $18.95 for a balloon, because I know that goes back into the pockets of not a greedy corporation, as some people say. I know it goes back to those cast members and goes back to giving to, they do the Children's Miracle Network, the Wish. How many wishes do they grant per freaking week? I mean, it's crazy.
Well, Disney's one of the largest.
They have to be the largest.
They're like the largest grantor of a company of wishes.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I think Walt would be extremely proud of this company, and of not just company, because it's more than a company. It is an empire. I think Walt would be extremely proud to see where it has come, and proud to shake every single cast member's hand, and to, say thank you to every person that has. I think, honest to goodness, I think if he could, he would have stood at the gates to the day he died and said thank you to every person that walked in the parks, because he knew it wasn't just the cast members and just his Imagineers and just his animators. It was, the people that come to the people that show up are also the reason that he got to do what he wanted to do.
And he treated, and there's records of this, he treated his cast members like family.
Oh yeah, well, and I think that's why they're still treated so well.
I mean, look back at the history of people that work for Disney that have been there, like since the beginning. There was an interview done recently during the 90th anniversary for Mickey, and it was an interview done with the lady that works at Disneyland, and she's actually worked there since day one opening. Wow. And she's actually known Walt. She
hot dog.
Yeah, like she knew him like through that. And she said, she's like, I've been working for Disney, and I still currently do, since the day Disneyland opened.
Yeah.
And Walt was one of the most amazing people when it came to the parks.
Yeah.
He loved it. He loved everything about it. And I think it shows in the cast member, well, most of them, you do have some.
But I'm sure that's everywhere. I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That happens everywhere. I get so sad when I see these people that are like, well, they're just greedy and they're just putting money in their pockets. Like, I really feel like they give back a lot, not just to charity, but to figuring out the science behind doing different things and making these movies better to make people enjoy those.
Well, just look at the merger with Fox. I mean, the merger with Fox is a clear, a clear understanding that is like they're moving forward. They're not sitting stagnant. And Disney has really done that with Bob Iger. Yeah. Bob Iger has taken Disney, like the whole company, to a complete like next level. Yeah. Something that I hate to say Michael Eisner did not do. Like it was, Bob Iger has changed. Like he has a vision like Walt. Yeah. The biggest thing I think with like where you were saying that people were talking about like the evil corporation is that, because of the merger, like they gave him, I think it was like a $13.5 million raise or bonus, a bonus, I think it was. It's stuff like that I think people go, oh, the evil corporation. But on the business side of it, I look at it going, you know what, today, like Walt would look at that and go, yep, that's a well-deserved, raise. Well,
he earned it.
He did a $71 billion like merger with the biggest, So it's stuff like that. But to kind of wrap up some of our time here, with everything going on today in Disney across the world, but mainly like the parks that are here, Disneyland and Disney World, with Star Wars Land and they're redesigning Epcot. What do you think Walt would say? Like if Walt could walk now through the parks,
I think he would be extremely proud of. That's very weird. I think he would be extremely proud of almost every aspect of what the empire of Disney is. Yeah. And empire is a really good word to put on it, because it's not just the parks and the hotels and the movies and the stuffed animals and the pins. There's just so much to it. And there are so many things behind the scenes that we don't see that they are constantly working on. Like I said earlier, the science behind, graphic arts and
they're always a step ahead.
Yeah. So I think that there are so many different components, and I think he would be proud of all of them.
I think with the current, I guess you could say, remodel of Epcot, I think this is where Walt would be extremely happy. Because I feel that like the Epcot that they're doing, it's literally, they are, I feel that they're kind of taking Walt's dream again and they're reimagining it, but also taking it to that next level because of the time that, the time and age that we live in.
Right.
But like the plans that they're doing, I love it because they're bringing Epcot to a whole different level. That restaurant we were talking about a few episodes back.
Yeah.
I think that would be like a restaurant that Walt would probably never even dream of right now. Like he's probably blown away, like even thinking of the idea of that.
Right.
That it's a fully immersive restaurant. Like you don't even have windows, but you have giant LED screens that look like you're in space. Like that type of stuff there, I feel like they are just taking Walt's dream and just kind of like, making it happen. But also still kind of keeping it, original.
They're honoring. I mean, they're still honoring.
Yeah, because they're changing
what it is
with the construction of Spaceship Earth and everything. They're reimagining and they're bringing back like an older entrance to Epcot that is more reminiscent of like the early days. So they're doing a lot of things that would be like original thoughts and ideas and of Walt, and I think it's amazing. And I agree with you. I think Walt would be 100% behind what Disney's doing today, and I think that he is definitely proud. Even Roy, I think they all would be proud of where Disney has come, and where they're going to go in the future. Okay,
so I just thought about something. Like I said earlier, if I could spend a day with Walt, I don't think I would say anything. I think I would have one question. But first, I want to ask you, if you could spend the day with Walt, if you could ask him like one thing, could you? I know that's right off the top of your head. Could you think of anything that you would want to ask him? Like,
I would only be able to ask him one thing.
What would be like the first thing you would ask him? I mean, for me, I would just stare at him and only ask him one thing.
I think for me, okay, so if there was like one question, or what would be the first like thing I can say to him?
What would be your biggest thing that you'd be wondering?
I would ask him what kept him going through all the doubt.
What his like motivation was.
Yeah. Like what was his motivation through all the doubt?
Yeah.
Because I think not only in like a creative life, but I just think in general, everything that we do, whether you're a firefighter or, you work in retail or whatever it may be, there's a sense of motivation, and there's always going to be people that are doubting you. And I think that Walt's advice of what kept him going could help anyone, whether you want to be the next Walt Disney or whether you just want to be some guy that works a professional career.
Yeah.
And I think that would be my biggest thing, is what was his motivation to keep going? Because there was a lot of haters for Walt back in the day.
Yeah.
A ton of haters.
That was a good question.
And then I think after that, I would just probably hug him.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Or just like stare at him like you do.
I've now come up with two questions.
Okay. Was just
Well, you talked too long. Okay, my first question would be, at the end of Carousel of Progress, would you like to update some of those gadgets? Could we update? Oh. Could we maybe make the laptop a Mac or something?
That's actually, hold on. That's actually been a topic of conversation where a lot of people have been wanting them to update.
Like I'm
Carousel
totally cool with like the Space Invaders and stuff. Like I'm cool with how it is, but could we just maybe add like maybe a Roomba?
Put like an iPhone in like Grandpa's hand.
Yeah. And then my second question would be Dole Whip or Citrus Swirl.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm just curious.
No, that's a good one.
Is he like a pineapple or like a creamsicle kind of guy?
That is actually...
So that would be my second question. And then I would literally shut up and just follow him around the park the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Trail him like a little duck.
Well, let us know what you guys would do. Like if you... and we are genuinely curious. If you guys were giving one day to like hang out with Walt Disney, what would your first question be? And what would you want to do?
Yeah.
So let us know on our social media.
Some people might say, I don't even want to go to the parks. I want to go horseback riding with him. I mean, I want to go to the parks.
Yeah.
We could like ride a horse in the park.
I think for me, walking down Main Street would be my top thing, other than the question. I think just walking down Main Street and seeing Walt stare at like his creation, I think would be just one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
All right.
But
well, that was fun to talk about.
It was. And again, let us know on any of our social media what you guys think as well. Let us know what I'll post a question on there after this episode goes out. And I'm curious to see what people are going to say about what their one question to Walt Disney would be. But yeah, so that was the man and the legend. That was Walt Disney, the man.
Yeah, and we'll probably have to do another episode like this because I'm going to tell you, I said it last week, but in the 4th grade, I wrote a research paper for Famous American Day on Walter Elias Disney. And if I can find it, you better believe we're doing an entire episode where I just read all 8 pages because I can tell you it was 8 pages.
Yeah.
And I want to know what 4th grade Casey wrote about Walter Elias.
I would be interested to see what 4th grade Casey wrote.
So if I can find it, we're going to do an entire episode where I just read you my research paper. So, and
again, go check out those 2 movies. Go check out Saving Mr. Banks, which is a great interpretation, and then also go check out Walt Before Mickey.
Yeah,
I think it's a great kind of
they'll
low budget
indie perspective on who Walt is too.
It's a great little indie movie of Walt Disney. So go check it out. That's it for this week. Join us next week as we look at Dumbo, since it's coming to the theaters, but we're going to take a look at the animation and the new creation that has been on the big screen. So thank you guys so much for listening. Join us next week.
We'll see you then.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Explore the Mouse podcast. We invite you to fill your week with everything Disney by checking us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Explore the Mouse. Also check us out at explorethemouse.com, where you can find amazing photos from our trips, our blogs, and information regarding upcoming episodes. Have a magical day, and we'll see you next week.